'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
The kettle's boiled, Vic.
Great. Perfect timing. Just a dash of milk for me, please, mate.
Here you go. Shall we get started then?
Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning and said, I'm never drinking again, and then found yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour?
Are you wondering why everyone else can stop at 1 while you head to a dodgy after-party with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a deeper look at your relationship with your reliable social crutch, alcohol.
On each episode, we'll investigate our own dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out if it's possible to stop this deeply ingrained habit before things get too messy.
Yep, we're going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up from a booze coma each weekend with a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health.
Hamish and I are here to delve into what it's like being sober, an unwanted warts and all look into why giving up those cheeky pints or putting down those mummy wines will make you feel happier, help your anxiety and mental health, and turn you into the most sparkly, authentic version of you.
Won't that mean I become boring though, Vic?
Well, Hamish, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone.
I'm Hamish Adams-Cairns.
And this is Sober Awkward. Do you want me to start with a little bit of trumpet, Hamish?
My heart says no.
Yeah.
My head says, who am I to deny you that? Go on. My heart was right. No. Please stop.
God, can you hear that drilling outside? Yeah, there's a house.
It's weird that the sound of drilling is nicer to me than the mouth trumpet currently is.
How can drilling be nicer than my dulcet tones?
Well, I would love to get woken up by that drilling rather than your trumpet.
Rather than
in
your
my ear.
face. Your face looking at me.
So tomorrow's my big day.
Yeah.
I'm not pregnant or getting married or anything, but I'm going to be popping bottles of kombucha, splashing my cash on a new keep cup, or I'm just going to be staying up all night watching the Ashes, like long after 8 p.m, which is my normal bedtime.
Yeah. You do that every night, don't you? That's like your night routine. Old videos of the Ashes on repeat.
Okay, that just goes to show how little you know. The Ashes is on right now,
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
I am actually struggling because we still get into bed at 6. So last night I slept from 7 till 8. And then I woke up at 8 and watched the cricket.
Oh God, it's sad. This is certainly not selling your sobriety.
There
here,
is
Hamish.
a risk that the next few episodes of the podcast,
Yeah.
I'm going to struggle to not talk about the cricket. It's on for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm going to struggle to not make this basically a cricket podcast about sobriety rather than a sobriety podcast.
You'll be on your own there, mate, because I'll be gone. Yeah. The other thing you could do if it's your sober birthday, Hamish, is drink from a chocolate fountain.
Yeah.
That is something that I would like to do. Just put my head under a chocolate fountain and just stay there. I would always shout, "I made it!" from the top of a building. Like,
Okay.
Yeah. People would be like, "What have you made?"
Most of the houses here are bungalows. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's
I don't
true.
know how I got on my roof.
I think also doing some low Russian dancing to Cotton Eye Joe is a good way to celebrate.
Yeah, that's a good way to start any day.
Yeah. Just a few kicky out legs.
Yeah.
That definitely makes me happy. You've got to book a restaurant, of course, and have an extra big glass of fizzy water with perhaps a dash of grapefruit cordial, Hamish.
No, I'm elderflower, actually.
I've gone grapefruit recently.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm going off the
purist.
scale, mate.
Off the scale on grapefruit?
Yes.
How are you?
Yep.
I did get off my nut on chamomile the other night. Did I tell you about
Saw
this?
your video.
I did. I went absolutely. I don't drink tea, as you well know. We were jet lagged, and Liz was like, "Screw it, let's have some chamomile." I thought, you know what? I'm going to get absolutely chamomiled off my tits. I did.
And what does that look like?
Not a lot, actually.
Yeah.
It's quite tame. I think I just did it and then had dinner and gave Sunny a bath, went to bed.
Chamomile off my tits. It's not something I've heard at a rave.
I think it's something we need to put on a t-shirt, actually. I think that sells.
Yeah, with our party like it's 1929.
Yeah. Forgotten about that.
That's a good one. Oh, dear. So basically, Hamish, what we're trying to say is that it is your sober birthday, your 1 year of me forcing you into the sober life.
That is exactly it. My issue with this, I mean, that's about where to start.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that it's my sober birthday tomorrow. My issue with it is I think it's maybe the only party in your life that you care about lots and no one else knows the date.
True. I know your date because obviously I'm on the same train.
You might be, I don't even think Liz knows, you might be the only person who knows the date.
Yeah, and I care deeply about that day as well.
You care more than me.
Lucy was the same. She was like, oh, God, how do I celebrate this? What do I do? I was like, we'll just go out for lunch. It'll be amazing. And she just thought, but nobody really cares, but I care.
Yeah.
That's all that matters,
We went out for yours. We went out for your
Yes, we
5 year.
did. We went out for my 5-year one, yeah.
As long as we have each other's backs and go.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, people remember birthdays. Some people remember wedding anniversaries.
Yeah.
Minus Christmas Day.
Apart from partners, yeah.
Apart from the ones that matter.
Yeah.
But no one really remembers sober anniversary.
No.
So 11th of July, mine, if you're wondering, yours is?
10th of March. I nearly forgot.
So if you guys could just write that down and then in your diaries and
Yes.
then send us gifts and well wishes on those days.
Send us chocolate fountains in the post.
Yeah, or grapefruit juice or elderflower. We're pretty cheap dates now. Actually. We are pretty cheap dates. We'll take any kind of gift.
Oh,
at all.
send me some fizzy water.
Don't send me chamomile. I'm going to just do that once a year. I don't want to become a complete addict. So yeah, just one gift each on those dates would be lovely. But no, I feel quite proud. I feel like it's
Good.
Originally, I thought the day would feel like the closing of the book.
Right.
I've done my year. This is what I said I would do.
Yes, don't give it too much away,
Okay,
Hamish.
no, okay.
I'm going to ask you the question about your future towards the end of the podcast to leave it as a surprise.
Teasing the listener. I
Yes,
like it.
yeah.
Okay,
but there is a bottle of Jack Daniels by the side of his chair right now, so I'm slightly concerned.
And a bottle of elderflower. I've just got to make my decision before
With
the
some
end
weights.
of the podcast.
So today's episode is sort of a party. Is it? I'm not so sure.
Only
It's
party
our
I've had in a 4-year-old's bedroom.
This is not the sort of party I want to go to. We are here to celebrate Hame's soberversary by doing the one thing he loves more than anything else.
We are going to strip.
No, not that.
We're going to catch a flight to the UK child-free and go to the Ashes?
No, thank you.
Okay, what then?
We are going to record an episode of Sober Awkward. Yay!
Now it's a party. That is my favourite thing to do.
It is.
Being locked in a child's bedroom with you for an hour. That is the way I want to celebrate.
Are you going to miss out that bit where you've said sweating my balls off with the favourite part of your week?
Oh, that's a good point. Well, today's actually not so hot, so my balls will remain probably unsweated for
I'm
this
so
hour.
pleased about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you don't have sweaty balls today. Firstly, well done on the non-sweaty balls and
That's
your
the main thing to
soberversary.
celebrate today.
Congratulations. That's how we greet each other each time we see each
How are
other.
your balls? Dry? Well done. How's the underside of your tits? Dry. Fantastic. We haven't seen each other for a while. You can tell. It's been a few weeks off.
The underside of your tits.
Oh, is that a sweaty area? I don't know.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
very sweaty. Oh, stop. Oh, dear,
I was going
Hamish.
to call it a flap, but it's not.
No.
It's not a nice way to
Flap
describe
is not
it.
good.
No.
You are a sober legend, and in many ways, you are my hero. Hang on. You wrote this episode, didn't you? Do I have to read it exactly?
Yes, carry on.
You are the smartest person I know, and your wife tells me you're hung like a...
Her words, not mine.
Yeah, enough of this. I'm going a cappella. In this week's episode, we're going to look back on both of our first years of sobriety. We're going to delve into some of the lessons we have learned to see if we can spot the similarities and differences between those who give up because they can and those because they give up because they have to.
Okay, so before we go any further, I'm sure some of the listeners will be thinking that I might be recording this episode with a beer in my hand, because in our first episode together, I said, that's it, I'm only doing it for a year. And we were going to track the progress over the podcast for a year, and then after that, Hame's back on the booze.
Yeah. So actually, we're going to wait, Hamish, before I ask you that question, because I'm too nervous to. Because I don't want to lose you, because if you do go back on the booze, that's what's going to happen.
That's it.
You're sacked.
And you're back on the hunt for a presenter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how
I'm not sure I can-
low will you have to look?
I think we better leave that till the end, that question, because otherwise we probably won't finish this episode and I'll just storm out of the room and slam the door.
Okay, so when you and I finish the podcast, you storm out. And when you and Lucy end the podcast, you're both in tears and talking about how much you love each other.
Yep.
I can see where I am in this pecking order.
Yeah, low, very, very low. Before we share some of our stories of our first years of sobriety, shall we share how we both felt on the day we gave up? This could be helpful to anyone listening who is thinking today might be their day one.
Okay, so for me, we went on a beach walk together and you asked me to join the podcast. Well, you told me to join the podcast and go, so there's no real question, actually.
No, you did have a choice.
Did I?
It was either you come on a podcast or you don't, or you're sober or you're not.
Yeah, but you're holding a gun.
I was holding a gun behind my back.
So I had no real warning that this was coming or that day would be my first day sober. But I figured, look, I love the podcast. I was a new dad, so I wasn't drinking too much anyway. So I had sort of nothing to lose. In terms of how I felt, though, I was nervous. Like I said, my first thought was about the fact I was about to go back to England for a bit, and I hadn't been to England in years, and I had these 3 weddings, and I was worried about having to dance, and I was worried about having to sort of socialise with people I hadn't seen for so long without drinking. So my first feeling was initially nerves. Then I was worried about the reaction that some of my friends would have. And because I didn't have a drinking problem before, and I wasn't the heaviest drinker in my circle of friends, I was scared that people would say, you? Like, why you? You're not even a big pisshead.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you were able to moderate. What's the point? There's no downside. I thought I would get that sort of line of inquiry, which, to be fair, I didn't. I was wrong to have that worry. But then part of me, despite the nerves and despite the worry, I was actually quite excited. I was excited by the fact that this was a challenge. I was excited by the unknown of it all. I was excited by the fact that it was something weird. I've always got a bit of a buzz out of doing something weird, something that most people aren't doing. And I guess I was excited by the idea that I was going to have to do lots of things that I'd never done sober for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. And I know for a lot of people that is not an exciting thought. That is an anxiety-provoking thought. That's a terrifying thought. That's an impossible thought, so they don't give sobriety a try. But I guess I was lucky that I felt excited by that challenge.
But you like a challenge. You do like a challenge, don't you?
Yeah.
You're somebody that will say yes. You're like the yes man, aren't you?
Yes man.
You are the yes
man. You call it people pleaser. I call it yes man.
Yeah, it sounds a bit better.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
But what about you? Because yours would have been slightly different to mine.
It was very different because I was coming out of my last therapy session the day I decided to give up drinking. Because before that particular day, I'd been going for 12 weeks. I had never even considered it a possibility of me not drinking again. Even though I was having huge panic attacks and I was really suffering because of alcohol, even in the therapy sessions, I was like, I just want to learn how to be a good drinker.
Yeah.
I just want to learn how to moderate. All of those questions still running around in my head. And it wasn't until the last session that she went.
Of how many?
Out of 12.
Okay.
12, yep. And she just said, you do realise you don't have to drink now if you don't want to. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, you can just stop it altogether. And I never even though my sister had been sober for 20 years by then, I never ever considered it a possibility. So I walked out of there that day and just went, oh my God. The only cure for this is for me to stop drinking 100%. And I felt utter relief. I often say that on the podcast, that I felt relieved. It was a bit different because it was the cure to my anxiety. That's what it was. It was the only way that I was going to stop the anxiety was to stop drinking.
What did you do straight away? So you walk out the therapy room, you've got this advice, you feel relief.
I went to the pub.
Yeah, that's it. One final swing of the bat. What did you do?
I literally I remember walking out of there and I felt like years had dropped off my shoulders. A weight had just been lifted off me because I was suddenly free, making that final decision and going, right, okay, so I never have to drink again. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And so there was no question in my mind by that point that this was the right choice for me. Mm-hmm. I felt it in every bone in my body. This is the choice that I'm going to make now and forever, and it's going to change everything, and I'm happy about it. So there was a part of me that was nervous because obviously I didn't know who I was socially without alcohol. So that was scary, but the excitement and the relief outweighed that massively.
It's interesting. I'm sure lots of people that still drink that listen to this podcast will be in that same situation as you, where in a way the answer is staring you in the face.
Yes, it was.
But you are not that open to looking at that answer and considering it. You think, I can moderate, I can still get away with it, I still love my old self, we can make this work somehow. And eventually, maybe you just need to hear it from the right person to accept it.
I needed 12 weeks of therapy to undo all of that and to understand the reasons why I drank and the reasons why I was a huge drinker socially. I couldn't have done it without that. Quite honestly, I wasn't mentally capable of unraveling all of the turmoil that was going on in my head around alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's a very simple answer, actually. It was a very simple answer, but it took me 12 weeks to undo it all.
Cool.
And just go, right, okay, this is something that's no longer working for me. This is what's causing my problems. This is not solving anything, and I need to quit. But yeah, I'd never considered that a possibility before. And it felt just, absolutely amazing. And when I walked out of there, I felt like I was sort of shining inside, like I knew the secret to life, and I couldn't tell anyone. It just felt that good.
Or like you swallowed a torch.
Yeah. And I felt like, those 3 months when you're pregnant, you're not supposed to tell anyone. It's like a secret between you and your partner. I don't know why, it's a bit silly, but I felt like that, like I had a secret inside me, the answer to life, and I hadn't told anyone. And it was really, really exciting. Cool. I think because my addiction was more mental than physical, perhaps there was a physical element to it as well. I'm not really sure, but it felt very mental, and I didn't have any withdrawal, which is good, but I did have a mental withdrawal, and that took some time to get over, especially when I was exposed to alcohol again for the first time, because I just wasn't used to it. And of course my brain was wired to go, oh, there's a drink, let me drink it. So that took some time, like it does with everybody, but I did feel like it was the beginning of my life again. I was like a baby bird cracking open its shell.
That's how I've always seen you, actually. Just a young baby bird accepting the vomited food from the mother.
Regurgitating like a penguin.
That's it.
I was excited to see life from a different perspective, from the sideline for once, instead of being the main event.
So both of us felt excited. You felt more relief than I did, but we both felt this sort of excitement of a new
something
new.
Chapter. Yeah. And also, very much like you, I enjoyed telling people about it because I felt proud and slightly obscure, just like you said. It's weird. I felt like the bearded lady at the fair. I was quite proud of being like the circus freak. When I went out, I kind of liked it. I was that weird, bizarre person that didn't drink. And I felt like a kind of rare find, like a gem that nobody ever comes across, like this weird person that doesn't drink. And it felt good being the one that wasn't drinking instead of the sheep heading down the pub. Yeah.
Okay, so we're both lucky that we like the weird. Because a lot of people will be afraid of giving up because I don't want to be the weird one.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Be the one that stands out.
Yeah.
So if you're not inclined to embrace the weirdness, then that is a justified fear of sobriety. I don't want to be the one that stands out at the party for not
Totally.
drinking.
It's actually good though.
Today, for me, feels like the big one, right? The 1 year birthday. Because I'm scared that after this, you only really celebrate the 5s and 10s. Is that right?
No, I celebrate every year.
Okay, good. Because I was scared that basically, the one birthday's huge, and then it's like, all right, if it doesn't end with a 0 or a 5.
You can celebrate every sober birthday because it's not like we're doing a Kardashian-style baby reveal. Okay, it's not like a massive Hollywood do. It's just me having a fizzy water in my lounge going, yay.
Okay, I cleared my schedule tomorrow
no,
expecting
there's
some
nothing
grand...
happening.
Okay, fuck.
I'm going to ride you in on an elephant to the podcast.
That's what I want. Yeah. That's what I dreamt of.
Nothing less.
When we did our live show recently, I said that I found the first year the most rewarding year because it was that first year of ticking off lots of things for the first time. First wedding, first rave, first sober speech, first dance floor. And I felt as if all of those helped me grow in confidence with each passing day. But for you, and I think possibly for anyone else who gave up because they had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, that first year is the most challenging, the most difficult, the least rewarding. Was that sort of right for you?
Well, it was sort of true. The first day was amazing, as was the first week, but then life happens. Yeah. So something goes wrong, bills pile up, kids get annoying, you get your favourite cardigan caught in the handle for the 12th time that day, sure. The dog does a plop on the carpet, stuff happens. And that's when I found myself thinking about drinking for the first time. Okay. It was when things went wrong. And I was so used to going, all right, let's just numb this out with a glass of wine and have a nice time. I couldn't do that. So, of course... a third of people relapse, Hamish, in their first year, and I can understand why. It's because everything feels raw and real, and you have to learn how to process it, which is really, really hard for somebody that's been a massive drinker. the thing is, when you give up drinking, you're able to see and hear and feel and touch a lot more clearly. And that can be very, very overwhelming. You feel more alive than ever, but it's almost too much. And that would cause people to want to drink again. And that whole processing emotion thing is really, really full on. And also, you don't know who you are socially or emotionally. So there's just so much learning to be done. And it can feel like quite a drag sometimes. It's like, God, this is so hard. I just want to drink.
It's interesting that, because you actually find that things that you thought you loved, you actually don't enjoy that much sober.
Totally.
Or things that you thought you hated, you're like, actually, I quite enjoy this sober. So it is a bit of a relearning of your interests.
It totally is. So basically, there's no hiding from your demons, and you just have to face them head on, which is a lot. Sometimes you lose friends, you might gain weight. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening, isn't there, in your first year of sobriety? And basically your brain starts working again, and all of a sudden you have insight into everything. I find I'm much more opinionated than I've ever been before. And sobriety is confronting as fuck. But just because I did not experience physical withdrawal from alcohol does not mean I didn't suffer some sort of mental withdrawal. I did want a drink at times because that would have been the easier option. That is the option I am wired to do and have been wired to do for 25 years, so it's hard to give that up. But even though drinking did pop into my head, I didn't do it. I certainly was done.
It's one of the interesting things about giving up for health or giving up because you have a problem is that we have different experiences that first year. They can be inspiring and you love it, or you can really struggle and find it hard. And I think for anyone that struggles and finds it hard, I think you feel shortchanged. You're like, I gave up because I'm meant to feel amazing all the time because alcohol's the thing that made me feel bad. So fuck it, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is the root of a lot of relapse, is people have an expectation of how they're going to feel the first year sober, and it falls short.
Funnily, I got an email this morning, Hamish. I've opened my email. It's sitting in bed this morning, and it was a lady who was saying, I've lost myself. I don't know who I am. I was fun, and I feel like I'm not fun anymore. Yeah. How do I still be fun in sobriety? I'm going to drink soon because I feel like I don't know who I am, and I'm completely lost, and I've lost my spontaneity. Yeah. And I just wrote back underneath. I just write 3 words. I think I wrote, why did you start this? Because I think that's where people get confused. You've got to remember why you started it. In moments like that, you started it because alcohol isn't working for you anymore. And if you go back to that and remember your reason why, then you kind of start, you can sort of reassess and start again. Because it is very easy to say, oh God, I'm boring now. But you started this for a reason, and you've got to really concentrate on that.
Why did you start this as 4 words, but who's counting?
Yeah, okay. Thanks. As I said, this is 4 words. I thought, I don't even know how many words it is. I don't know why I'm saying that. It was a few words.
I didn't hear a word that you said after you said 3 words.
Don't worry, it was a load of gibberish anyway.
Well, I think this can serve as an important reminder that although everyone that is sober or sober curious are all part of a community together, you know, we're all effectively the same, we'll each thrive or struggle at different stages and paces. A sensitivity to this is so important in helping anyone that you know that is going sober or trying to get through this navigate every single corner. You've got to understand that it's different for everyone.
Yeah, it totally is.
So to provide my sort of side of the first year sober, I wrote a blog post on the Cuppa website, which I think we're going to release today or tomorrow. It will come out on my soberversary, which goes through this in a little bit more detail. But generally, I want to talk about the 3 key lessons that I've learnt this year.
Okay, great.
It's bloody hard to narrow it down to 3.
It is hard to narrow it down to 3 because you're like a little gnome when it comes to sobriety. You have lots of things that have changed. I don't know why that's related to gnomes.
No,
but you are like a little gnome.
Sober gnome is nicer than sober gimp. We cancel to sober gimp. Yeah. We'll go back to sober gnome. So the 3 key lessons that I've learned. The first is that the least interesting thing about going sober is not drinking alcohol.
God, so true.
You are the person that first said that to me. Yeah. And that is probably the greatest thing that I've learned this year. Not choosing alcoholic drinks in a bar or in a supermarket or at a party is not interesting at all. It is just me drinking one drink whilst everyone else drinks a different drink. Yeah. There's nothing to learn in it. It's one little decision that you have to make.
Yeah.
But everything that goes with sobriety is interesting. Like I spoke about, the idea of doing your first dance or wedding or speech or whatever, holiday, sober, feels like you are becoming a better person by proving to yourself that you don't need alcohol for confidence, or you don't need alcohol to cover an insecurity. That is really the root of everything interesting in sobriety. For me, if you have a problem with drinking, it might be different for you, but for me, that was the number one lesson that I learned.
That is a huge lesson, and that is a lesson I totally resonate with, Hamish.
The second one was that more people are sober than you think. I did not know there was a sober community. You were the only sober person I knew. I thought it was basically you and Lucy and lots of sober pregnant women.
Yeah.
That's everyone that I knew, and none of my friends were sober.
Yeah.
But then since going back to England and going to weddings and socialising with people, loads of my friends are going sober. Loads of people struggle with anxiety on a hangover than I thought. That's not something I ever experienced. And loads of people are experiencing it.
Yeah.
People that, I think maybe because we do what we do, people open up to us about it. I'm not sure if I was still drinking, people would pull me away
Yes,
at a
maybe you
party
wouldn't know.
and share that with me.
No.
But loads of people are sober. Far, far more than I thought. You're not a complete weirdo if you're sober.
Okay, that's good.
You'll be surprised by how many people come up to you and go, me too, or I'm trying it for a bit,
Yeah.
or I'm sober curious, or I'm going to do 6 months. Far more people than you first think.
I'd say I rarely meet someone who's 100% happy with their drinking and goes, yeah, I drink 20 beers on a Friday night. It's the best thing ever. You don't hear that very much anymore. You know, there's people that like to drink. Yes, I see that. But you never hear anyone talking about it like it's the best thing ever. Maybe it's because we're not 18 anymore, or because we're in a different scene and we don't go out of our houses.
Yeah.
But I do think it isn't something you hear very often, people being proud of their drinking as much.
I think people would know to not say that to you and I, though.
Perhaps, yeah, that's true.
We're not the people to bring that conversation
Oh, well
to.
done.
Yeah.
You're
Fantastic.
the best. Yeah. Well done on your drinking.
And the third lesson is this lesson of time. You get a lot of time back. And I think I felt this particularly in the last month when I've been away on holiday. Holidays are, in many ways, the hardest thing to do sober, because holidays when you relax and you drink and you're on a swimming pool or a beach or a bar or whatever, and it's my time to drink. For loads of people, and for me, for years, holidays were drinking. Now, holidays sober, your holidays lasts so long.
Yeah.
There are so many hours in the day when you're on holiday and not drinking. I could not believe, I get up at like 5 a.m. with a child,
Yeah.
but I could not believe the amount of hours of my day. We went on a 4-day holiday and it felt like 2 weeks.
That's so good. And you were happy with that? It's not like it was long and drawn out?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, that's all right then.
No,
It was
that
hell.
would not be a popular thing to say with my wife. Just ask two little couples holiday with like a child.
24 hours with you is like a lifetime. They're all very, very good answers, Hamish.
Yeah.
They're huge, I mean, aren't
They
they?
were the big three.
Other than these benefits of sober life, has there been anything that you have really struggled with?
Yes, of course. The first one is the do you feel amazing question. I feel like that is such a difficult question because you feel differently every day.
Yeah.
People assume you're sober now, you've been sober for a year, you must just feel incredible. I'm like, no. Which is my second point, I still get hangovers.
Yes.
Which is incredibly unfair, but so true.
From just tiredness.
I think it's tiredness. It is often after a night out, like after a wedding or after
Yes.
New Year's Eve I had one, or New Year's Day I had one.
Because you've had a few fizzy drinks.
I don't know what it is. If it's just talking lots or being out late or socialising or tired, I don't know what causes it, but I still get hangovers, which is very unfair.
I think we need to do an episode on fizzy drink awkward. Because
Okay.
like that's the sober hangover is the sugar in fizzy drinks.
We could definitely do that.
Yeah.
There's an episode in Sober Hangovers.
If you would like to support the Sober Awkward podcast, we're excited to announce that we've joined Patreon. Patreon is a membership platform which allows you to give back for the content you love.
By buying Sober Awkward a cuppa once a month, we can keep the giggles coming and continue sharing our sobriety message.
By joining Patreon, you get access to Sober Awkward merch, extra content, special promos and loads more. Just find the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com and search for Sober Awkward.
And together we can learn how to feel the awkward and do it anyway.
Another thing that I find annoying about being sober, and I think this is maybe the most annoying one, is you realise how annoying drunk people are.
Yeah, you basically are looking at yourself when you go out and you just sit there going, I cannot believe that I was always this drunkest person. And usually that person isn't really drunk.
Yeah.
So sometimes, the dog's going.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably the biggest annoyance in my sobriety. And I know that this is a sober podcast, and in a way I feel bad going through a list of things that are bad about being sober, but it's important to show both sides of the argument.
Of course.
You have no idea how annoying drunk people are until you're sober. If you're one of them, it's great. Like, they're also drunk, you're not annoyed by them, you're being annoying, no one's annoyed with you. And then you're sober, and it really irritates me.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's bad, isn't it?
It is.
Because you don't want it to irritate you. I want to be cool with it, but I'm not. I want to go out and be like, yeah, this is fine, I'm having a good time. But as soon as someone reaches that point where they've gone to the different world in their eyes and slurring and stuff, I just don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. It's funny in sobriety how you have more of a concern for drunk people. Like, I worry about girls when I see them sat on the curb outside a nightclub. I'm like, oh, John, should we stop? We'll give them a lift home, see if they're all right. He's like, they're fine. You did it for 25 years. But sometimes they're not fine. Like, people are at risk when they're like that. Someone's passed out in a car park. You've got to try and help them, haven't you? It's funny how you change from being that person, the one passed out in the car park, to being somebody who's trying to help.
So you got rid of your anxiety, but you picked up a lot of worry.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
totally,
only a small step down.
Yeah, I can cope with worry. Anxiety, I can't. Yeah.
The other one, my last and biggest annoyance about being sober, is that now that I've effectively had my eyes opened to alcohol marketing,
Okay.
I am one of those annoying people. Yeah, anyone that you meet that has a rant about the government, like the government are pulling wool over your eyes.
Yeah, conspiracy theories.
I'm now one of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, they're making a lot of money from advertising this.
Yeah.
And we're falling for it.
Yeah.
So I'm now a generally annoying conspiracy theorist.
You know, I always used to say to you about the big trick, didn't I? How you start in your first year of sobriety, start to go, this is all, like, you get a bit angry.
Yeah.
This is all a big trick. I've been conned into drinking all my life to think it's fun. And they're only showing me half the story. And now I'm pissed off about it. They're showing me the good bit, but they don't show everyone 5 minutes after their second drink falling all over the place and making a tit out of themselves. They just show, yay, look at me having a glass of wine. We're actually going to do a whole episode on alcohol in the media and that sort of influence on people, because it makes you have an opinion of alcohol that is positive. And of course we know really that that's not true.
Well, yesterday, and this will be my last cricket reference, during the cricket, which starts at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I was watching it in the first hour. So before midday, the advert on Sky Sports in England, the first advert during the break was Laithwaite's wine.
Yep.
Because they are the official sponsor of the England cricket team.
Yep.
Why a cricket team has an official wine sponsor, who knows? Then it was a cider advert, and then it was back into the cricket. This is like 11:30 a.m. And there'll be millions of people watching the cricket during the Ashes. I just thought, now that I'm aware of it, it really annoys me.
But I suppose it's the perfect audience because everybody drinks.
Yeah.
So, like, we're just the two people that don't appreciate that advertising, but everybody else is like, oh yeah, cider, lovely, go and get one.
Anyway, I must also emphasise this point here, in that I haven't, during my first year of sobriety, experienced any kind of trauma or grief. So anyone that does go through either of those things in their first year and it becomes a trigger and they relapse, I totally understand. I cannot relate to it at all. I've got no idea how I would react in that situation. And I feel so lucky that I haven't experienced either that this year. I thought I would. In a way, I had the sick thought, like I've mentioned on the podcast, that when I said I'll give up and it will be a year, I was sure that something awful would happen during that year, which would really test me.
Yep.
And I've been incredibly lucky that I haven't.
Yep.
I know this is my soberversary, but I feel like I've been talking too much here, so I want to get more of your opinion. You said that first year, in a way, was the most challenging, but by year 5, you're loving it. So what changed year 2, 3, 4?
Let's wait for that drill.
I think it's all right.
Do you think?
I reckon, yeah.
Shall I close that blind? Just in case anyone's still listening, the blind has just fallen off and fallen on the floor and he's broken it, and you can hear the drill outside even more. Just leave it.
Is that a stitch up?
No, it's not.
It's just punked.
I don't know what happened there, Hamish. It's very bright in here now, though, isn't it? Oh, let's just carry on. Sorry, everybody. There's going to be some drilling in the background, and it's very bright in here now because Hames just ripped the blind off the wall.
Okay, so what changed?
Yeah. It's what you said about it not really ending up being about alcohol. You give that up, and then you have to get to know yourself deeply I will say. It's not just you get to know yourself on a very low level. It's actually you get to know yourself very deeply, which is a really fascinating experience. I could never have predicted in a million years that was going to happen to me. I remember being on Danny Carr's podcast, How I Quit Alcohol, probably 3 years ago now. It was the first podcast I'd been on as a guest. And her saying to me, how's it going getting to know yourself? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I was 2 years in by then.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've just given up alcohol and I'm talking about it. That's all that's happening. She was like, no. You are going to get to know yourself on a whole new level. And she looked at me on the screen and said, I am so excited for you. And I was like, I don't really get what you're talking about. She was like, you will, and this is going to be what it's all about for you. And I remember going away thinking, oh, what load of woo-woo sort of rubbish. And that is exactly what happens to everyone. And the longer you are sober, the more extreme that is and the more brilliant it is. And it does take a while for it to flip into action, but you get to know yourself and you get to like yourself. And actually, I hate to say it, but you get to love yourself, which is a very wanky thing for me to say. It sounds egotistical and self-absorbed, but that is the truth.
And that took 3 years for you?
I would say to start that, it took 2 or 3 years, to start on that. Because you have to have the 18 months of kind of struggling and understanding and getting to know yourself socially and putting yourself out there a bit. But then there's this whole other path of you just learning how to understand that you are worthy of being happy. And that is quite a huge thing. Because I think you go through life just thinking, I'll drink it away. This is how I have fun. And you don't experience another way of feeling. And when you're sober, you have to learn another way. And that's what it is. Yep. So yes, I love myself, Hamish. I love myself now. And I often say to people, in fact, every day people write comments on our Cuppa community or on my Facebook page. They're like, how will this stick? What do I do? What's this going to feel like? And I always say, just know this will be the best thing that you will ever do for yourself. And it's true. I guarantee that if you stick with it, it will be. Yeah.
Lots of people say that. Lots of people have said that to me.
It really is true.
It's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah, it's like the sobriety secret. The big secret to life is like, just get sober and you'll just start really enjoying your life.
So those are the good bits. What are the bad bits? The bits that still grate you about being sober 5 years in?
Well, I still feel a bit odd when I'm the only person sober at the pub. That never leaves me, Hamish. Okay. I was at the pub last night. A couple of my mates were having a glass of wine. I had a lovely time. There were people singing and being a bit rowdy, and I just thought, I am the only sober person here, which is why I do this podcast, because I need people to be sober so I'm not always the Billy No Mates.
So this podcast is just a call for friends.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 2 years to just get people sober so that I don't feel like a weirdo when I go out. Yeah. I still sometimes feel like a bit of a tit asking for fizzy waters at the pub, because I know they just think, oh God, just going to have one fizzy water and leave, and what's the point in you? It feels quite intense sometimes emotionally, and not having an out during the witching hour, for example, and having to sit and process all those feelings is tough. I did throw a broom at a wall recently, Hamish.
Why?
Well, it was actually, luckily we were just having our bathrooms done, but I told John that something had fallen down and made a hole in the wall, but I was so annoyed that I didn't know what else to do. I left the kids in the lounge and just walked into the airing cupboard and shoved the broom really hard against the wall, made a hole in the wall.
What had the kids done?
Oh, they were just being twats.
And did you feel like, was that release?
Yes, it released it. Yeah,
good?
It released it. Yeah, throwing a broom at the wall is quite satisfying.
Should we get you a padded room so you can just throw brooms at walls?
Yeah, maybe a bit more therapy might help as well.
Maybe,
yeah,
sure.
A padded room and some more therapy.
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely need to work on that.
We'll see what's cheaper. We'll see whether it's cheaper to pad a whole room or 10 to 12 therapy sessions, and then we'll just do that one.
I saw the look on my husband's face when I said, "Oh, there's a hole in the wall, something fell down," and he just came and gave me a worried look. Knew that it was me.
I'm gonna make you a papier-mâché broom for your next soberversary.
Yeah, a rubber one.
Smash that. Oh yeah,
a rubber broom.
Yeah. You can just throw that around all you want.
The most pointless thing in the world, a rubber broom. I want one. Oh dear.
Of course, by its very nature, this episode is about celebrating a date, a milestone, a soberversary. But I think it's important to emphasise the pros and cons of being too attached to dates in your sobriety as well. So I think it's actually a huge topic within sobriety, and it can be a pitfall.
Especially if you're failing and you're like, oh, everybody's
Exactly.
getting to 100 days and they're getting to 200 days and I can't get past 2. What's wrong with me? So, yeah, there's definitely downfall in that area.
Yeah. Let's begin with the pros.
Yeah, so opportunity to celebrate you. That's what this is. And shout about your sobriety from the rooftops if you feel like it.
Yes. Your soberversary might inspire someone else. If we can do it, Vic and I, trust us, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
We are not very impressive people.
Yeah.
And you probably are more impressive. And I think shouting about it and having a date specifically put aside to shout about it can help others.
Totally helps others, Hamish. It can be bloody hard going sober, so take pride in your success.
Plus, any excuse to treat yourself.
Yes.
Soberversary is basically a birthday.
Yeah, it
so
is a
buy
birthday.
yourself some gifts.
Yes.
I feel as if although all of these points are valid and they are important, I totally understand anyone that tries to distance themselves from becoming too attached to these dates.
Yeah.
One of the downsides to these dates is you can beat yourself up over a relapse. You know, when you restart your clock that date and you're back to day zero, it's very easy to have a fuck it, what's the point attitude. You know,
Yes.
oh, I'm back at day zero, I'm back at the start, I might as well keep drinking. You know, you get too attached to the date and that can just completely unmotivate you.
And also, I think having those relapses often, it sort of creates this vicious circle of relapse. You're like, oh, I've relapsed before and I got back again. Now I'll relapse again and I'll get on again. It's like this on-off thing. And I think there's something to be said here, Hamish, of giving up. Of course, everybody wants to give up and never go back, and that's really hard. But I wrote a blog post recently called The Knowing, and that's what I felt on the day that I gave up. I had to have this knowing that it was going to be forever for me, because otherwise I still had that mental preoccupation about when I was going to drink and when I wasn't. And that was the mindfuck for me when I was trying moderation for that 4 years before that, was that I was still thinking about alcohol. And for me, it was the knowing that I was never going to drink again that avoided me relapsing. And having that knowing is really, really important, because that will stop you going back and forth all the time. There is so much weight in a date. The difference between being sober curious since a date or completely sober since a date, does it really matter?
Yes, this is a big one for me, because I think if somebody says I've been sober for 5 years, that for me is impressive. If somebody says I've been sober curious for 5 years, there's something in that. I'm like, oh, okay, so you still drink a bit? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that that is the wrong approach, but deep in me, that is still important.
Okay,
I'm
yes.
still attached to that date.
Yes.
Even though I know there's very little that good can come from it, for me, in my personal experience. So recently I met a guy in Dubai, and he said, you know, I gave up boozing for a month in the 90s and it ended up lasting 5 years. And then I went back to drinking for 10, 15 years. And now I've been sober again for the last 5 years. And rather than me being like, that's really impressive, my thought is like, oh, what made you start drinking again?
Yeah.
Is that what you would have done? Like,
Yeah, totally.
oh, what happened? He's less attached to the idea of it's been
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever is scary for anybody. And it's impossible to say forever. That's why AA, they say one day at a time. Because forever is too overwhelming. It's too much for people to handle mentally.
Yeah.
So one day at a time, stick with that and just see how it goes. But that knowing that you're trying forever, I think is really important. Yeah.
With being attached to dates, there's also comes with it this risk of using a landmark date as a reason to start drinking again.
Yep.
So if you go, like I did, I'm going to give up for a year. Well, on that soberversary, like, great, I've achieved my goal. Now I've proved to myself that I can go sober. I must not be an alcoholic, because alcoholics can't do that.
Yes.
So I'll go back to drinking now.
Yeah. I'm not passed out on the park bench, so I'm all right, Jack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, weirdly, being attached to a date can actually make you start drinking again, because it's a goal that has a deadline.
Totally. And it's the same with doing dry July or anything like that. You're setting yourself up to start drinking again, actually. Yeah. So it's so interesting, isn't it? All these different aspects of this first year.
Where do you lie, actually, on that whole dates debate? Because I'm certainly, dates are a bad thing to my own detriment. Where are you? Are you dates are good, or is it a bit of both?
Love the dates.
Love the dates.
I'm
okay.
very, very proud of my sobriety. Therefore, I want to celebrate it at every opportunity. And those years tick up. I cannot believe that I'll be 6 years sober next year. It is extremely important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it shows how far I've come. Yeah, it's huge. I think it's huge. But it's not for everybody. I totally understand that. You and I obviously come to sobriety from slightly different places, Hamish. So having done what you set out to do and gone sober for a year, how do you feel about your sobriety going forward?
This is the big question, really. You were saving this one for the end.
I was, Hamish, because I am concerned about this. if you say that you are going to start drinking again, then you're not going to be on the podcast anymore. That's number one. And I'll feel a bit sad and weird and scared. I'll feel very many emotions if you tell me you're about to go to the pub and get pissed. I don't know how I'll feel. I think I might tie you down.
You reckon?
Yes.
Or would you relapse with me?
No.
And we go together?
Certainly wouldn't. I can't imagine anything worse.
It's a big blowout end of the podcast
Oh, God,
together.
what a messy afternoon that would be.
Let me start by saying, as long as I do this podcast, I will be sober 100%.
Okay.
Doing this podcast and moderating, or doing this podcast and drinking, or doing this podcast and turning up smelling of alcohol.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
It's never going to work.
Even cheating, even if you went, oh yeah, I'm going to do the podcast and I'm going to pretend that I'm sober, but I'm secretly going to drink. I will know.
You will know. I have had hundreds of opportunities to cheat.
Yes.
I've had so many friends, and even Liz say to me, she'll never know.
She'll never know.
We're on the other side of the
will
world.
know.
She'll never know. So I have not cheated.
Okay.
But no, honestly, this podcast and the effect that it has on us and the effect that it has on people that listen, seemingly, is the most meaningful thing that I do in my life. Professionally, I suppose I should say husbanding and fathering.
Yes.
But professionally, if we could call ourselves professionals, this is literally the best thing that I do in my life. So there's no way that I'm giving up this podcast. There's no way I'm giving up sobriety and leaving this podcast, because I'm loving doing it.
Okay, great.
So,
That's good. That's good.
We are still together.
Okay,
the show goes
yes.
on. There will be an episode next week.
I'm not hunting for a new co-host.
No,
then.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
thank God for that.
Put that LinkedIn job application down.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'd already done the forms.
Well, also my fear is that if I did go back, if I have a drink, let's say this podcast ends and we both go our separate ways and you move to Thailand and, and then in like 3 years, I call you and said, I had a drink last night because I'm now going to be sober curious or whatever it is. I'm going to change my approach to alcohol, whatever it is. I don't know if I could deal with your disappointment. I know you would feel disappointed, and I know you wouldn't be able to mask it well because you're not a poker face.
I wouldn't.
I don't know how that. Maybe if that conversation we should record and release it as a bonus episode 3 years after the podcast.
You could just
ended.
film my face, and you just see one tear leak from my eye.
I did have an interesting chat with a guy the other day who said, in 100 years' time, we're going to look back on this passage of time as like the big con in a way, like alcohol was this poison that we all drank and was normalised.
Like smoking.
And when we're smart in 100 years, or we know more about the science, whatever it is, we'll look and just go, what the fuck were we doing?
Well, the choice is then, Hamish, are you a pioneer?
I guess I could be a pioneer.
Okay, if you'd be a pioneer, you never drink again. Okay, so basically, if you start drinking again, you will no longer be a pioneer.
Oh, I see what you've done. You trapped me.
I've trapped you.
I'm just Joe Blogs, not inspiring anyone anymore.
Not inspired, just drinking, sat at the pub on your own with a pint of beer. No
cow.
longer a pioneer.
How dare you do that to me?
That is good.
That was a trap. Okay, no, I don't want to be a pioneer. I'm falling for that one. Re-record that.
I don't want to be a pioneer. That's funny. Oh, dear. I suppose whether you choose to celebrate these dates or not, what's important is that you are sober, Hamish. You have ticked off another day and are hopefully reaping the benefits. Sobriety ain't easy. There are good days and bad days, just as there were when you were drinking. You should be proud of yourself whether you were a week sober, a year sober, or 10 years. I can tell you from experience that it gets better and better.
Yes.
As it will for you, Sir Hamish.
Shall we finish, as ever, with a silly quote?
Yeah, go on then. Disappointing affirmations.
Oh, I'll do that one. It's okay to have feelings, but why do you have to have so many?
Yeah. That's me, summed up. Here's a nice one. If we're facing in the right direction, all we have to do is keep walking. I chose that one because it related to you. Now, I just wanted to read out a little bit about Hamish here. I've written there, just keep walking, Hamish, because that's what you need to do. Keep walking in the right direction. And remember that I'm walking behind you, watching your every move, so keep fucking walking. Okay?
You creep. You're behind me in disguise.
At the end, I just want to give Hamish a huge pat on the back. We now get hundreds of emails from young men, from lads to dads, saying they've given up drinking because they were so inspired by Hamish's story. A guy that didn't have a drink problem, yet quit drinking. This is an incredible lesson that needs to be heard in our society. Hamish is proof that you don't have to be an alcoholic to stop drinking. You will still reap all the rewards that sobriety offers, even if you were a very moderate or casual drinker. Your life will improve, everything will get easier, and you'll get healthier if you take alcohol out of the equation. Sobriety really is a possibility for everyone, and I'm so glad that Hamish hopped on board the boring bus and came for a ride on Sober Awkward. His journey has been fascinating to watch. His insight and perspective on sober life have not only made the people that know you intrigued, Hamish, it's actually spurred on others all over the world to give sober life a go. What an admirable accomplishment, Hamish. You are really a sober superhero to me and many others.
Oh, thanks, Vic.
That's okay. I wrote that last night while I was really tired. And
Thank you. Thank you all the same.
and I've got a message from your wife.
Really?
Yeah. Ready?
I'm ready.
I am so unbelievably proud of him. He is the most incredible husband and father. I know everything he is doing is so he can be the best version of himself and show up for his family. Sonny and I feel so lucky to have such an inspirational guy in our corner. Oh, she sent that to me this morning.
Gone behind my back.
I
and
went
done
behind
that.
your
That's
back.
very sweet.
Just to say well done, Hamish, 'cause it's a big feat. And it was a big ask of me to say, can you go sober for the podcast? And to hear that you're going to carry on and maybe experience a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever you choose to do, and to help inspire people, I think it's very, very brave and very inspiring. So well done.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for asking me. Best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, okay, good. I just want to add here, of course, that we're going to be doing a live show in Sydney, aren't we, Hamish?
Yes.
Go onto Eventbrite, and the tickets are on our Sober Awkward website as well, which is soberawkward.com. We're coming to Sydney to do a live show 21st of September, and I think it's
Thursday night?
I think it's a Thursday night
Yep.
at the Harold Community Hall. It's going to be amazing. There's loads of seats left, so get in there.
Yes, we would love to see you and actually meet some of you.
Yes, we'd
If
love to meet some of
all
you.
our stories, I want to get to know some of yours.
Okay, yes. What stories?
Well, their most embarrassing story.
Oh,
They
yeah.
literally know our most embarrassing stories and we don't know them.
That's true. I just want to give people really long hugs and avoid conversations.
Oh, purely hugging.
Purely awkward hugs, that's all I'm
Interesting.
giving, yeah.
Okay, mouth taped up and
Yeah.
just you can use my free hugs t-shirt.
Oh, yes, excellent. I'll just do that. Yeah, so we'll look forward to seeing you in Sydney, guys.
Unless that's a turn off for you, in which case we won't hug you and just come and you can just enjoy the show.
Yeah, just enjoy the show. And Hamish, hopefully you won't be opening that bottle of Jack Daniels that's next to you.
No, I won't bring that.
Okay, good.
It is a sober event. If you're
Okay,
wondering,
yeah.
no booze served at
Yes,
this event.
there will be no booze there.
Please don't have pre-drinks before you come.
Please don't do
Please
that.
don't go out for dinners and boozy piss-ups of any mates
Yeah.
before you come. Don't heckle. Just enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Stay sober.
You know we find drinking people annoying, even though we were drinking people for many, many years. Thanks for listening, guys. If you're questioning your relationship with booze, you're struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support.
Yeah, just talk to a mate about how you're feeling, contact a local doctor, find an AA or sobriety group. Vic's got one.
Yeah, just head to www.cuppa.community.
Remember, if you're questioning yourself, it might be time to seek support.
Even though this journey can be awkward, it is definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, don't forget to review it, rate it, and share it with your mates.
Do they have to share it with their mates?
Yeah, of course they do. I'm not doing this for nothing, Hamish. Bloody hell.
How do they share it?